Hey, I feel that Instagram or Facebook just don't do this justice. So it's got to be the hard YouTube way to post something. All of a sudden I got a text message about uh, hospital systems suing patients for medical bills, and I fall into that category. So hopefully this will get some wider play than most of my other posts. So just to recap, I have a brain tumor. It's called a meningioma. It's sitting, squeezing my brainstem over to one side, and so it causes all kinds of hella problems. I had a $500,000 surgery in December of 2017, and of that $500,000, I got billed by my insurance company with $50,000 of my responsibility. Then I had to go undergo radiation, and that was another $500,000 roughly, and I got billed another $55,000 by my insurance company. I've been in therapy for a year and a half after that, and I'm doing good. All right, I'm literally a walking miracle. If I, lacking humility, say that for once in my life. They took three golf ball size sections of material out of my head, okay, and there's still a sizable tumor inside my head that we hope doesn't restart regrowing, because if it does, there's not much that we can do. So needless to say, I go through now annual scans for, to track this tumor to see if it might do something, and therapies for brain injuries. And let's remember all those servicemen that suffered brain injuries in Iraq recently. Okay, those, they call it PTSD and whatever else it might be. Brain injuries are serious things, right? And there's no instant cure. It's not like you broke your leg or had your appendix taken out and you go through a certain number of steps and voila, you're recovered. I've been at this for almost 2 years, and the bills will keep on going, and the service people are fabulous, but the companies behind those service people that enable them, between the insurance companies and the service providers, billing companies, that are separate from the people that are providing the service, right? What gets lost is the idea that medical bills are an unexpected, extraordinary expense. I had to raid whatever little paltry savings I might have had in a 401k to sustain myself, because let's see, while I was out on this medical injury, I was not working, and so the government nicely charged me, 10% penalties for withdrawing money from savings, and of course that money was at a higher tax rate. So in order for me to take care of things for my life, you know, bottom line, I remember that bottom line is I paid $42,000 in income taxes in a year when I made $100,000. All right. I paid $42,000. I do not own a house. You know, I don't have any assets. They've been depleted. And then what happens at that point in time? And so now we have a system where I get phone calls round the clock from automated systems that they're not people, they're just computers. And they're just computers going, okay, we've got a sensitive matter to discuss, and you've got this account, and then if you talk to somebody and say, yes, you owe us this is calling for the hospital, and you owe us $175, and I go, I have a $322,000 bill, and what's remaining is a $175 account for somebody that took my blood pressure or something like that. They separate every single service, right? So I have literally 27 of these accounts or something like that. Brain injury. I'm lucky now to be able to talk. There was a point in time that I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk, I couldn't swallow without guidance. You know, there's a lot of impacts. So I had all these bills waiting for me at home before I ever got out the hospital. I had $55,000 worth of bills waiting for me before I got home, or 45,000. I'm sorry. $45,000 worth of bills before I even got home, and an inability to open up an envelope and look at a print because my eyes were quite screwed up. The brain tumor that I have is sitting and messing with every single one of my cranial nerves. So I'm deaf on the left-hand side. I have no balance, all right? My eyes couldn't focus. I had something called an nystagmus, and then the worst part is, in attempting to do these things like, screw in a light bulb or put water on the head of a pen, all right, on the head of a penny, what would happen is my attention to trying to control my senses, my functions of my eyes and my other senses to coordinate that kind of activity, which is hitting what's called my cerebellum, all right, would send my blood pressure down to like 90/40, and I'd be flat on my back and, back in the hospital, right? So I learned something out of this whole thing, and I live by this, right? I have a tumor in my head, and it is what it is, all right? There's not much anybody could do about it, but when some bill collector says, okay, yes, oh no, we don't mean you any harm, and we're just going to pass it along, and then I get the letters that I can, wallpaper my house with, okay, which are here, you're gonna have to, small claim and go into court. If you don't respond to 30 days, then there's gonna be a judgment against you. And then, let's go ahead and bankrupt. Well, bankrupt, nothing for nothing means nothing. It doesn't mean a goddamn thing, right? Except for the fact that I have 3 wonderful kids, and I've got a daughter in college, and she's got financial, federal government assistance, federal loans and whatnot. They're still underneath my onus, right? There's nothing left, right? I got 2 other kids that are in high school. Where will their opportunity be? I also am a person whose wife divorced him before all this stuff happened. And in the process of that, I remember the judge saying to me, yes, you might get lucky and your daughter might might get a scholarship or something like that, and that'll be how she'll go to college. So meaning that I'm all of what I have is going to go to my wife or something like that. It's ridiculous, right? Let's think about that for a second, right? My daughter would not be able to attend college. I check with the colleges. Oh no, you have to be 23 and married to be emancipated or something like that. Then my youngest daughter is only 9 years old. I'm 60 years old. So what am I going to do? They're going to be on public assistance, right? Yeah. So this system, I'm a systems engineer, among other things. I don't want to say that this system doesn't work, but it doesn't work. It really doesn't. And yes, I acknowledge that there's something desperately broken. It's worse than perverse about the fact that we have a collection process, going to make sure. And this is it's hard for me in this video to get this out the right way. I can be a much more eloquent speaker under other circumstances, but this is a wee bit difficult. But I just say I want to identify, I want to resonate, I want to resemble. There's a large class of people going through this exact same thing for a lot of different reasons. And I sit with a bunch of people that are really, they're some of the bravest, best people in the world. Now, my tumor is not cancerous, or it was benign, right? And so there are people who look at me and say, hey, that's great. And then I have friends and associates that are battling with cancer, and in their case, their daily watch is even worse, right? Between chemotherapy and the need for additional surgeries to absolutely remove these growths because they would spread and cause other kinds of devastating effects. And their bills just got to keep on rolling, keep on rolling. And so let me kindly say this piece of it, which is, because mine is not cancerous, maybe nobody gives a damn. Oh, well, it's not a problem. You're so fortunate. You're so lucky. I don't discount that I'm not lucky. I mean, I'm still here. All right. I'm fortunate. I've been able to see my daughter graduate high school, and I've been able to, help guide my kids along a little bit further. They say that's life, right? But at the same point in time, consider this. I have the equivalent of a hangnail, okay, in my head. And because it is me, there's nothing there's no indication, there's no warning until the hangnail pushes all the way through into my brain stem or pushes into my brain, and that's it. There has to be an inordinate, change for them to even know what the hell's going on, okay? We'll say, well, we're just going to watch it. We're not going to do anything. And then there are no drug therapies. There are no laser surgeries. There are no things that can remove this tumor, okay? Because it's me. It's very difficult to identify, and there's no level of nano surgery to, take to stop the tumor from what it's done. The blood supply for the brain goes straight up through the middle of this tumor. All right, it's called the basal artery. So the idea of cutting it out is not even possible because, to cut it out, you'd have to block off the artery, and therefore there's a stroke. Hey, don't have to have plaqued up and have a blood clot. You could just have a surgery, in order to take care of it for yourself. Or if the tumor started squeezing that artery a little bit too much, okay, then, either way, I'm going to stroke out. That's what's going to happen at some point in time, And so we just do the math and, run the probability and say, oh, well, maybe it'll be 10 years, maybe it'll be, 15 years, maybe it'll be 20 years, And in the meantime, I'm supposed to worry about the bills that are coming. Like, I'm electing to choose to do this stuff. I don't care if it's selling somebody down the river. I got to tell the truth. I worked for AT&T, and I contacted AT&T in advance of this because I got an urgent notification. Hey, you got to have an urgent surgery, right? And I contacted my employer, human resource department, and I was like, look, I'm having brain surgery, deep, severe brain surgery. I do not know what I will be able to do to advocate for myself afterwards, meaning in terms of managing all the the insurance and all that stuff that has to go on. Is there any way you guys can help me? Because I know that ultimately everything's going to be coming back to you, because AT&T self-insured, and it was with United Healthcare, right? And the most important thing to take away from this is AT&T said, nope, nothing we could do. You got to deal with the insurance company. Now, this is me knowing in my glorious, informed self, knowing that there was an appeal process for everything, right? So AT&T punted to their insurance company to say, manage this. And the insurance company did the most wonderful, I'm not going to be facetious. They did the thing that caused the initial problem right in the very beginning was when they got they authorized my stuff, my care, right? I have a 1 in 3 million kind of tumor, and then even and it goes crazy like that. They authorized the care, okay? And then while I was in the hospital recovering, they denied part of my brain surgery. And I didn't find this out until verbally 4 months later. They explained to me that part of my brain surgery was not covered. Now, I ask you, as a common sense person, what part of brain surgery would be optional? What part of it would not be covered for any damn reason in the world. And this is why I needed somebody to advocate for me, okay? The doctors did what they were supposed to do. The people that filled out the forms did what they were supposed to do. The people in the insurance company did not do what they should have done. They applied their standard operating procedure logic, which says, okay, you get a claim in, you deny it, and make the person come back and dance for it. And I could not do that because I couldn't even look at the bill. That was where the whole thing started. Then machine gun all the other bills that came along with it. The first bill in is what matters, right? The first bill in is a big bill. They say they deny it. Then I get a trickle down of about 30 little bills, and they said, oh, well, you've got to play your deductible on each one of those. Boom, 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 because you have not exceeded your deductible. And it's like, wait a minute. This procedure was about $500,000, and out of this $500,000, you elected to burden me with a bunch of little bills instead of paying them and taking the largest bill and then say that one bill you have, you got responsibility for, which would have been a lie anyway. Understand? So what they did is they harmed me. And the brilliant people in this world that are attorneys, they only look at the risk and they look at whatever the hell you sign. Again, brain injury person. I don't know what I did. I'm documented as not knowing what I did for this period of time. Okay. But all that matters is somewhere, somehow I signed. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm skipping a piece of story. After it's all said and done, and I'm working on my recuperation, my recovery, AT&T had an outside company managing my disability who did nothing but try to push me to long-term disability, meaning push me to long-term disability to the, what's it called, SSDI, okay? And then that's less money that AT&T would have to be responsible for, okay? Because in the state of New Jersey, AT&T offsets anything that they would pay you, out of insurance with any money that the state of New Jersey would have given you or the federal government would have given you. All right. Now, again, I'm 60. At the time, I was 59 years old. So they're like, yeah, you're gonna, we're gonna see if you're eligible. You're gonna go to long-term disability. Long-term disability separates you from the company. Okay. Long-term disability cuts off. Separated from the company, then I cut off my pension, which was not much to begin with, right? But it was all about money. And that is what got me. And also, as I'm talking right now, my recuperation was to regain my faculties to be able to do things, which I did. And that piece of it negated my qualifications for long-term disability because I was not totally disabled. And there was nobody to help a brain injury person navigate with what they had to do, okay, to say, okay, maybe you could come back to work part-time, or maybe you can do this instead. No, it was just like, no, well, we're going to get you a long-term disability. There goes everything, Yeah, it's tremendous amount of money, a tremendous amount of money involved that they were just managing to try to reduce expense for AT&T. When I went back to work, pushed myself and caused a relapse, but the relapse took 6 months to go into effect. Meaning, 4 months I was doing okay. Okay, then I went for checkups, and I said, look, something's not right here, et cetera, and I told my company that I'm probably going to be put back out on disability, and they quickly, and I will say they were looking at downsizing anyway, so they lumped me in with a bunch of people that they said they were going to be declaring surplus, and I was put into a group of 13 people, and to my knowledge, I'm the only person that was severed, that was separated from the company. So that was a disgusting act, okay? We could argue over the legality of it, right? Because I did go back out on disability, but let's get our dates right. I think that the company served me a separation notice on December 10th or December 14th, somewhere around there. And my disability did not get approved until December 24th. Isn't that cute? So for that 1 week, that meaning, oh, you know what? We already served you with a separation notice. So while I was out on disability, I was being cared for by the short-term disability insurance. And when I came back, I got a letter saying, hey, you got 56 days until if you don't find another job, you're out of here. And they had no intention of, of preserving what I did. So, all this stuff is to say, medical bills, which are not it's not an optional discretionary expense on anybody's part. Yes, the system is such that, the people that process the claims process and the collection process is just another added expense on top of what's going on here. So if you get a extraordinary expense in some way, and I'm not talking a little extraordinary expense, I'm talking a big expense. Like if you get a $10,000 expense, that's a big deal. But you get $1 million expense, that's extraordinary. Okay. I don't want to deal with it.